Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's kind of loud in here. There's a league going on right next to us. Music's blaring as typical is what they have here at the Bird, but today we are here bringing you this guy behind me. This is Blake Evans. Bowled against him last week in league. After our league video posted last week, a few of you commented that you'd like to see some more of Blake, and specifically really taking a look and breaking down his swing specifically. Blake throws an awesome ball, probably 500 some revs. We'll measure that tonight as well. He's got a high rev rate, he's got a good ball speed, but all with a very effortless swing. So we're gonna learn a little bit more about Blake tonight, and then we're gonna take a look at some of his shots. We're gonna zoom in on different aspects of his game, slow it down, look at all that, and see what we're dealing with Blake. So if you guys could, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment if you could. All that helps the algorithm. We'd greatly appreciate it. Other than that, let's get in and learn more about Blake. All right, how old are you?
Will be 25 in 2 weeks.
And when did you start bowling?
When I was 2 or 3, I was real young.
You have a very natural high rev swing.
Yeah.
Where would you say, or when would you say you really started learning how to throw the ball the way you do to get that kind of rev rate?
It's probably when I was about 13, 14. I had a real traditional, just modern, I'd say kind of similar to Pete Weber. Not nothing too fancy, but just a lot of finesse. Then my coach at the time said, hey, try upping your backswing and hitting up through it, not softballing it. And the next thing I knew, 18 miles per hour, average ball speed, and 550 plus 600 rev rate at the bottom without never really knowing what I did. I wish there was more to it.
You bowled in high school?
I did. I bowled at Washington High School in Topeka, Kansas. Did that from 2014 to 18. Individual state champion with them, but we fell short of team by like 20, 30 pins. But it's a good time there. Good little program.
What about your college journey?
Midland University. It was fun. I did 3 years there.
How much would you say, how many leagues do you bowl a week?
Right now I'm only in 2 because I have a new job.
How much are you typically in the past?
In the past, it would be like 5 or 6 a week. I'd sub consistently 4, a lot of times 6. I'd sub a lot, so six or more.
How long did you practice in college? How often did you practice out of college before the new job, and how are you practicing now?
Before college, it was pretty much in high school, you know, 2-3 times a week, because it was high school practice plus my league plus maybe one Thursday afternoon after school. College was definitely not an eye-opener, but like, oh, this is a lot of bowling. It went up to probably 50 to 100 games a week, putting in a lot of games during college. And right after I got out of college, initially probably 60 a week, so I worked at a bowling alley. A lot of bowling, went down to probably 20 games a week. That's where I've been at outside of leagues, 20, 25 a week for the last 2 years.
Carries everything. So easy. Let's start by calculating Blake's rev rate. So we put a piece of tape on his ball, and we're going to slow this video down, and we're going to count the number of revolutions he has from the time the ball leaves his hand to the time the ball hits the pins. While this is counting, I also, in the full speed mode, calculated the amount of time it took for the ball to leave his hand to hit the pins, which I calculated at approximately 2.13 seconds. By counting the number of revolutions that the ball has using that tape, we can see he had about 20 revolutions, and at 2.13 seconds equates to a 563 rev rate. Now, if we zoom in a little bit closer and we take a look at some different angles of his swing, I want to start by taking a look at his hand position directly behind the ball as he brings the ball back. His hand is in a great position at this point. But more importantly, right when he gets to the release point, look at the position of his hand and his wrist at this release point. It is in an extremely loaded position, and it allows him to go from coiled to uncoiled. Again, if we look at that closer, coiled to uncoiled, coiled to uncoiled. This is exactly what we talk about in the yo-yo release. He's really just rolling the ball off of his hand, thumb first, finger second. And this is what allows him to have such an effortless release while gaining so many revs. Now looking at it from the side in slow motion, what I want to focus on here is his elbow position. So you're going to see that his wrist is in a loaded position at his push away. As he brings the ball back at the peak of his swing, his elbow is completely straight and his wrist still in somewhat of a loaded position. As he starts to come through, he maintains a straight elbow, but as he gets to about this point, he's going to begin to bend the elbow, which you're going to see here. And this allows him at the release to uncoil his wrist and straighten the elbow and maximize his revs by simply rolling the ball off of his hand. Additionally, if we zoom in even closer, what I want to notice here is that he doesn't really have a big push away. He actually pushes the ball somewhat down, just lets the ball fall. He's not pushing it in front of him. He just really pushes the ball down, lets that ball come back up. He's got a pretty standard four-step approach. There's not a lot of speed. He doesn't have quick steps. It's just a very nice cadence, so everything is very smooth. From the side view, one of the things I noticed is that you can see right here, he actually leans forward before he takes his first step. So he is a four-step player, but much like a five-step player uses the first step to get his body in motion, he uses a forward lean to get his body in motion, and then he times his first step and his push away, which isn't much of a push away again, it's more of a drop straight down. Gets that all in timing so that as he gets his second step, the ball's passing his leg, third step, the ball's at his peak, and he's got that strong power move into his slide. Again, with a bent elbow, and then he allows himself to uncoil the wrist at the release. This is a little more of a front view, so we just get a different angle. And again, he's got good timing, not much of a push away. And you can see he's pretty compact. He's got a little bit of a high backswing, but not super high. Things are pretty compact, and he doesn't do a whole lot until that very end when he's bringing the elbow in and bringing that wrist into an incredibly strong, loaded position. And because everything is so compact, he doesn't have a lot of wasted motion and a lot of wasted effort, and it allows him to stay very balanced at the line. Now, when he shoots at his 10 pins, he does have to flatten it out. He does not throw a spare ball, and what you're going to notice here is his push away, his lean, everything is the same. So he keeps everything pretty much the same all the way through most of his swing. His hand is behind the ball, his swing is nice and high here, his elbow is straight. At this point, he does not bend his elbow. He actually keeps it straight, which puts his hands on top of the ball instead of under the ball. That allows him to get the ball to roll end over end. And this is important for somebody as you're adding revs. It's an important way to make sure that you're flattening the ball out and you're able to cover those pins with a straight shot. So Blake makes this look a lot easier than it really is. We know that it takes a lot of practice. He mentioned earlier that he was spending 50 to 100 games a week when he was in college, working on his game over and over again. So it's not something that you can just pick up immediately. It takes a lot of repetition, a lot of muscle memory creation. But the point of the video is trying to show that one of the things we all fall into is that we try too hard to make the ball hook. We're trying to open our shoulders too much. We're trying to twist things too much. We're trying to torque our wrist all the way around. We're trying to keep a bent elbow through the whole thing. And it doesn't need to be that complicated. It really has to do with that little bit of motion right before the release point. His push away is nothing spectacular. He's got a standard 4 steps. He's not fast. He's not super slow. His backswing is a normal height. It's not super high, it's not super low. He is in a loaded position with his wrist and he does bend his elbow, but he does all of that right before the release point. So the most important thing that you can do to try to get more revs on the ball, like Blake does, is to really work on that moment specifically. And the best way you can do that is just through repetitive one-step drills or no-step drills over and over and over again. You're trying to establish new muscle memory and getting used to going from everything being pretty normal in your swing to really focusing on getting that loaded position with the wrist, bending the elbow right before you release, and uncoiling everything. Letting the wrist go, letting the elbow go, and rolling the ball off of your hand, thumb first. If you can work on that over and over again, it becomes more and more effortless, and it doesn't take as much energy to try to make the ball actually hook or rotate as many times as we try to make it do. So that's my advice to you. That's the things that I work on. Obviously, if it was that easy, I would have 563 revs as well, and I do not. I'm just now cracking 400. But I'm using these same tips of focusing on one-step and no-step drills and focusing on that moment specifically. The other things I've been working on in my game have just been other things that I'm trying to do for different reasons, but in terms of trying to increase revs, it is that specific moment. And it has been my own focus on that specifically that has brought me from barely cracking 300 to cracking 400 now. And it is, as I continue to do it, hopefully I can continue to get more and more revs on the ball in an effortless way, much the way that Blake does. So hopefully you guys got some value out of that. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, comment below, all of that stuff. I love to read the comments. But yeah, we greatly appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
How'd you get to be so cool?